Welcome and thank you for joining me for this TMS video series. In this video, we'll be talking about how to create a class. In the Training Management System, or TMS, we make a distinction between classes and courses. A class is a specific time where students meet with an instructor who will train them on the content within a course. A course is a container holding labs and other content that will be used for training, either self-paced or instructor-led. We'll start by creating a basic class. My organization has the basic class editor set up as the default. This is set up on the Organization Profiles Preferences tab, and there are other fields that we'll be talking about that also can have defaults set through the Preferences tab on the organization profile. The basic class editor limits the number of fields and sections displayed when you're creating a class to only show the most commonly used fields. And this should help to create classes quickly without having to evaluate all the fields that are available. To give a quick comparison of the basic class editor versus the full class view, when you're creating the class, your basic information section has 7 different fields. You'll have session times, delivery, instructors, and a notification trigger. You always have access to all of the fields through this Show Advanced Settings link on the side. And when you open that, you'll see that there are many more fields in the basic information section, and we also end up having more sections available down below. Let's go back to our basic class editor and look at creating a class. When you're creating a class, a course must be added for the class. You'll click on the Choose link and hit search for your available courses or input some search text, and then click OK to add the course. If you want to create a meeting without adding a course, you can use custom events, which allow you all of the same features that are in a class, but you do not have to have a course added to it. The display name can be changed. It's going to automatically take the name of the course. You can change it to anything you like. This is the name that will display on your schedule and to your students and to anyone looking at the class. Some organizations do like to input the name of a company if they are dedicating that class only to users that come from that company, giving everybody in the organization the ability to see that it is a closed class and not a public one. You can add information in the description. The description text shows at the top of the class when it's created. I'll just put in this is a description so you can see it later. The time zone should be set to wherever you're conducting the class. In the case of the time zone set on the class is going to be seen by each user based on the time zone in their user profile, so that if I am scheduling a class in Pacific time on the US, on the West Coast, and the person taking the class is on the East Coast, which is 3 hours earlier than our West Coast, then if I schedule a class for 10 a.m. Pacific time, that student is actually going to view the class start time as 10 a.m. because it's going to adjust based on what the time zone is set on their user profile. Minimum students and maximum students. Minimum students is a way for you to be able to set how many students you need in the class to run the class. And then based on the minimums that you've set, you can do a search from Find Classes and add a filter for minimum students met or has not been met. And you can find classes that are running in the future that still haven't met the minimum student number that you required to run it, and decide whether or not you're going to cancel those classes. Maximum students actually set the limitation on the class. Whatever is set here is the actual number of students that can be enrolled into the class at the enrolled status. You cannot go above that number. So once I hit 20 students, if I try to enroll another student as the 21st student, I'll get a message saying that I've met the maximum for my class. You can come in and edit this and change it up to 30. We do have a ceiling of 30 students per class, in order for us to be able to schedule our resources. But that doesn't mean that you can't run a class that's over 30 people. All you need to do is open a support ticket and let us know what course you're using, the dates of the class, and how many students you want to have in that class. We can check our resources and schedule it out and plan accordingly. Scheduled is my default status showing here. I can change it to any number of different statuses. Scheduled and guaranteed to run are the only two statuses that are active for a class, meaning if you choose any other status, the labs will not be available and none of the activities will be available to the students. Only scheduled and guaranteed to run activate a class to be used. Any of the other scheduled, like canceled and rescheduled, are both cancellation statuses. They do set that class as canceled. Tentative, requested, denied are all statuses you can use as you choose. Completed is for a class that ran and there were things they needed to do afterwards before they could say that it was finished. And completed is a status to show that the class did run and the extra things after the class were also done and completed. I'd just like to point out that there are default settings available to be input on the Organization Profiles Preferences tab for the minimum students, maximum students, and status from this section. Next, we're going to click on the session times bar to expand the session times section. And you can see we have it set up to default to adding multiple sessions. And there is a reason for this. Using multiple sessions impacts labs in a good way. The TMS automatically assigns save times for student labs based on the way the class is set up. If it's set up as one session that goes over multiple days, your students may not get the optimal lab save time. Lab saves are sometimes confused with post-class access. Post-class lab access is normally 180 days. This is the amount of time the user has to go back to a lab and launch it. Lab saves are different. They are when a user has worked in a lab and saves their work. And we limit the amount of time given on lab saves to manage our resources. Anyone can return to a saved lab and resave it to renew the save date and extend it. We don't save labs for 180 days. We give access to take the labs for 180 days. Lab saves work like this. For classes scheduled on consecutive days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, for example, students are given a 2-day save. For classes on non-consecutive days, meeting every other day, they're given a 3-day lab save. For weekly classes, we give students a 7-day lab save. You're meeting every Monday for the next 8 weeks, then the student will have a save time of 7 days. And 7 is the highest number of days given to students. If you do have that Monday class scheduled for the next 8 weeks and you use multiple sessions to schedule it, your students are going to have lab saves of 7 days. But if you used a single session time to schedule it, they're only going to get a 2-day saves, and it's likely that they'll lose their work in between the class meetings. And all students can save up to 2 labs. The way the multiple session times works is the number of sessions comes over from the course, uses the course's training days, and it defaults to whatever that is set at. And you can change this and make it any number that you like. The next field allows you to set which days of the week your class will be scheduled on. This is one of the default settings that's on your organization profile on the Preferences tab. You have the day format, and you also have the start and end time for the sessions times section. And here you can set which days you want your class to be scheduled on. If it's 5 days and I have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday scheduled, if I started it on a Wednesday, then it's going to skip Saturday and Sunday and use Monday and Tuesday of the following week. If I uncheck everything and only want to run a class on Mondays, if I do this, it will schedule 5 sessions for 5 Mondays based on my start day. You'll put in your start and end time for your class session each day and click on OK. Once you click OK, it actually adds in each of those sessions as a separate line. And you can edit those. For instance, maybe on the first day of class, you meet earlier in order to get some registration details in place. So you can edit or delete any of these, but you can see it scheduled it every Monday for several weeks. The next thing we're going to look at is the delivery section. If you click on the delivery bar, it opens up this section, and you don't necessarily have to fill out anything in the delivery section. It isn't needed to run or schedule a class. This is used to add physical classrooms or a virtual meeting host that is to be opened through the TMS. If you aren't using either of those, there's no need for you to come in and set anything in the delivery section. If you are using classrooms, physical classrooms, then you'll want the delivery type to be physical, or you can have a combination of physical and virtual. You can see here we have a create classroom or add classroom link for you to use. Classrooms were designed for scheduling physical rooms, and each has a capacity set on it. If you're using classrooms, as you seat students into the classroom capacity can limit the number of students you can enroll to be seated into the classroom, even if the maximum students that we set up here in basic information hasn't been met yet. Let's say that I have a classroom that seats 5 students and I add it into the class, but my maximum is 20 students that's set on the class. I can only seat 5 students into that classroom. The other 15 don't have to be set into a classroom, or they can be set to a different classroom because you can add multiple classrooms. But you'll get a warning if you are trying to go over the capacity of a classroom, saying that the students can't be enrolled because it exceeds the capacity of the classroom. So physical classrooms can be added. And the way to do that is click on Add Classroom. If you have a classroom set up, you can do a search. And you can see right now I have one classroom set up. It's not showing it because it's in conflict with another time that I've set up a class. By default, you have this does not have schedule conflict filter in your classroom chooser, and it will prevent you from seeing any classroom that is already in use during the same time as the class I'm scheduling. So if I remove that, I can now see my classroom and I'll add it on to my class. There's 2 other things you can do in the delivery section of the class. One is to add virtual classrooms. So when I add virtual, it's actually going to remove my classroom, physical classroom from view. If I say the delivery type is virtual, then that means all the students will be attending virtually, and they won't be seated in any physical classroom that I'm tracking in the TMS. We have 2 fully integrated virtual meeting host options. One is Adobe Connect and the other is Zoom. If you have a contract for one of these, you can fill out a ticket to support. They'll request certain information from you, and we can integrate that into the TMS for you to use. And this gives you the benefit of being able to have recordings that are made from your virtual sessions available directly to your students from their enrollment, and for you and your instructor directly from the class. And it also automatically goes out and schedules the meeting for you when you create a class through the TMS. So I create a class in here, it goes out to Adobe or to Zoom based on whichever one I'm using, and it automatically schedules that meeting time in for me. We also have this custom virtual classroom, and the custom virtual classroom is available to everybody. It allows you to go out and use whatever meeting host you want, and once you have scheduled the meeting, you copy the URL for the meeting link in here, and you can check the box for pre and post-class launch access. So there will be a button that says Enter Classroom on each student's enrollment and on the class for the instructor. And you can set how many minutes before class that button appears, allowing the instructor into the virtual meeting room, allowing the students into the virtual meeting room as well. You'll set the time there as well. So maybe I want the instructor to come in 60 minutes before. I want students to come in 15 minutes before. And then we also have an instructor post-class launch window. So essentially what happens is if you don't set anything in here, or you set it to 0, as soon as the class end time comes, that enter the classroom button is going to disappear and they won't be able to access that classroom anymore. Sometimes you have people with conversations with the instructor after class, but if you're in a virtual meeting and you accidentally get bumped out and there was a conversation going on after the class, you wouldn't be able to get back into that conversation. So it can be good to give a few minutes after the class ends for that enter classroom button to still be available. The last type of delivery we have is a mixture of both physical and virtual. And this is something that you would use if you have students that are going to come into your organization and sit down in your class and physically have those students in class with your instructor, and also have students attending either from a remote site somewhere that is away from your organization classroom or virtually from home or their office. So you can set it up to be both physical and virtual, and that allows you to set those students as virtual or add them into a physical classroom so that you know who to expect will be arriving at your organization. Okay, one last thing I'd like to mention in the delivery section is that we do have one default setting for delivery, and that's set on the organization profile on the Preferences tab. And you can choose to enable or disable having a message pop up when you save a class, reminding you that you have not added a classroom if one hasn't been added. Let's go down into the instructor section. And here you can add or create an instructor. We have links for both. And when you click on Add Instructor, it's going to open that Instructor Chooser box. We also have two settings for instructors for you to set defaults on whether these two filters show up or not. And this is, again, on the Organization Profiles Preferences tab. So you can choose whether or not to have this belongs to organization filter show. If you only have one organization in your hierarchy and you are not using contract instructors, you probably do not need this to show up. It allows you to choose between multiple organizations and decide which ones are showing. If you're using contract instructors, you might go to does not belong to your organization, and it'll show the results for any instructors that meet the criteria here. Right now, I also have a filter set by default for certifications. You can set certifications on your instructor profiles, or your instructors can set them as well, showing which courses they're certified to teach or that they have prepped or attended. Those are all filters that are available here in the instructor filter. Certified for a course, attended course, you're going to have prepped for a course way down at the bottom. And of course, you still have the organization chooser in here as well. So if you don't add them, they are still available to use. If you're not using instructor certifications, you're going to have to remove this every time. So it's good to go in and set the default so that it doesn't show up at all. And now if I click on this, I should see a bunch of contract instructors that are available to teach, but are not working on that certification. Lots of instructors out there, or I can choose only those who belong to my own organization and don't have a schedule conflict. And I'll see a few there. Again, we have the does not have a schedule conflict. So if an instructor is already scheduled to teach on the dates that the class you're scheduling is set for, they will not show up by default. You can remove that filter and hit search. So let's just choose Bev instructor, and actually we'll choose 2. And you can add multiple instructors and set which one is primary on the class. The one that is set to primary will show on the Find Classes search when you show the instructor column. The other one is still scheduled for the class, but they don't show up there. You can filter by that instructor name. I could filter by the instructor name in Find Classes, and it would show as one of the classes she is teaching. And anybody added into the instructor area will have the class show on their instructor calendar so that they know that it is a scheduled item for them, and they can use that to access their class. If you do have multiple instructors and you don't want them listed for every day of the class, Bev will be teaching and Bill won't be there, you can in fact come in here, remove him as an instructor on those days. So you can come in here and edit who is actually in each session if you choose to. Now let's save our class. We have conflicts. So I have one for my instructor Bev, and she's teaching in another event that overlaps with mine. And I also have a classroom conflict because this classroom is scheduled to be used at the same time as the event I am using. I could click no now and go back and make revisions, or I can click yes and it will save these conflicts that it has warned you about. I'm going to click yes. Two things to note. One is that my class is successfully created, and if I click here, it's going to open that class I just created. If I come back to the top though, everything that I've put in for this class, including the delivery, including the classrooms, including my instructors, are still there. They're preserved there still. The only thing that hasn't been saved are my session times. So if you're using the same course and you're teaching the class again using the same instructors in the same place, you can schedule this just by adding more sessions and saving it. It can save you some time on creating classes. Now, I have successfully created my class. I mentioned before that there is a description field, and this is where it shows right up at the top of the class, and students can see it if they come to the class page. So you'll see all of the information listed and on down to seeing my activities that are in my class and my access to the course. That is how you create a basic class. We'll have more details in another video about the other aspects of creating a class. Thank you for joining me for this TMS video.